And we're back.
Roger,
David, how you going?
I'm very good, thank you.
Thanks. I am very excited about today's episode. It's very, very hot topic. So, welcome to Common Ground. If you haven't heard it before, we're the podcast that provides you the bite-sized to the big conversations, whatever interest that you come across in your daily life. We provide you all that information so you're ready to go and break the ice. Today, I'm really excited about this topic. We're doing an overview of AI and where we are today. It's probably going to be a series because there is a lot that we're going to go through, and we're only going to go through a little bit today. But if you there are specific things that we don't touch on, please let us know. We'll make sure they're part of the next ones. Okay, David. So AI, it is all anyone wants to talk about right now, and it's the tool of the future. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about AI and the history of it, and just give us a bit of an introduction?
Yeah, so firstly, it seems like AI is brand new, but actually, AI as a concept or something that's been researched has been around for decades. Back in the 1950s, I don't know if you've ever heard the term Turing test, but Alan Turing was a computer
Mm.
scientist who came up with this test of can machines be taught to think, basically. To be
Mm.
honest, in the early days, the progress was really slow. Like it was limited strongly by the available computing power. Computers barely could play checkers, which is like a pretty simple term. And the idea of artificial intelligence is trying to simulate the way that a human brain works, but within a machine. And what's really changed over the last 2 or 3 years that's made, or it seems like they're making so much progress, is the amount of data that's available, like on the internet. And secondly, the amount of computing power that's available through like the cloud computing. So we have the data to teach AI and then also the horsepower to process that data. And the AI tools that you're familiar with today, like ChatGPT or the image generators, or even like self-driving car systems like you have in a Tesla, they're powered by a concept called machine learning and neural concepts called machine learning and neural networks, especially what we call a large language model or LLM. And so, in order to have a basic conversation about AI, you just need to understand how it works in short. Essentially, the way AI works is learning from massive amounts of data to recognize patterns and then be able to make predictions or decisions, which can sometimes appear incredibly human like.
Makes sense. And it's like essentially making the machine think like a human. Do you want to touch on maybe what are the common things that people would be using this AI capability to do?
Listen, even if you're not using ChatGPT on a daily basis, like some of us that work in the software industry, it's already everywhere, like even if you're not really realizing it. Things like Siri or Alexa, like they're supported by language models. The way that Netflix recommends the next show for you to binge watch, that's an AI based prediction as well. Even something like
Hmm.
technology that's existed for years, like email spam filters or Google Maps, etc., they're all being enhanced with AI to become more useful. In business, AI is being used to analyze customer data, automate responses to customer service requests, analyze resumes, etc. In healthcare, we're seeing better predictions by looking at diagnostic information in order to detect cancer or other kinds of diseases. And in arts and entertainment, which is probably the most controversial, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Tools like DALI and Midjourney generating images or special effects that used to take human power months and years to create, I just created within a few minutes using some advanced prompts. So basically, AI, it's not just in the research labs anymore, it's being used almost everywhere on a daily basis. So those are some of the use cases we see right now.
Yeah, and that's a lot, right? You can really apply this. It's so flexible. You can apply it to anything, whether it's just trying to tell you to like, hey, how can I cook something to take this huge amount of data of all our customers and provide us insights in terms of where we could be, serving them better. But I think when you've got such a powerful tool, there's obviously going to be a little bit of concern and caution around the power it has and, what information it's using and what kind of changes it can make. So do you want to touch on maybe some of the controversies that have popped up?
Totally. I think because it's developing so quickly, we're seeing it being rolled out into so many different areas. People are rightfully concerned about is it really helping us or hurting us? And there's probably five things that I think are the main issues that people generally talk about. First is the topic of bias. So if the AI is trained based on data that contains a bias, the AI model will also have that same bias. So, for instance, if you train a facial recognition only on pictures of Caucasian faces, it's going to not be very good at detecting faces of other races. The second topic is the topic of deepfakes. And you've probably seen this a lot in the news, right? Obama kissing Trump or something like this. And it looks like so incredibly real. And there's a lot of fear around that it can be used to spread misinformation or just fill the internet with like kind of crappy, not very creative content, which people are calling AI slop. But the third thing is something called an AI hallucination. And you might have seen this yourself when you're using ChatGPT, which is basically the AI just making up an answer to a question that's not even true or based on any sort of reality, and then explaining it as a fact. It was a really great example of this a few months ago, where a newspaper in Chicago published a reading list of books, like a summer reading list, and most of the books didn't actually exist. They were just like invented by the AI. The fourth thing is the topic of copyright. In order to train this or ingest this huge amount of data to be able to train the AI, the tech companies relied sometimes on copyrighted data, like books that people have written that they own, right? And there's a legitimate fear around, okay, if they've trained on that data, will the AI be able to replicate my book somehow? And then last but not least, and probably more harmfully, there's people that are really relying on tools like ChatGPT. For instance, like in health situations, like if you start thinking, I've got a disease, I've got cancer, like how should I treat it? And you ask ChatGPT and it gives you an incorrect information or not based on expert knowledge, it could be giving you something that actually harms you. So basically, AI is very powerful, but it's raising a lot of ethical questions as well.
Yeah. I think that the one of the biggest questions that also comes seems to come up is okay, AI is taking all this information, they're able to make decisions, it's able to take action on things. People are worried about their jobs. They're saying, am I going to be replaced with a tool? Is this something that we're seeing in the next 12 months? And it should, something should be, concerning for everybody.
Listen, I think the AI coming for our jobs narrative is probably, at least in the short to medium term, a little bit overblown. Right now, the
Mm,
AI is not reliable enough to replace even the most menial jobs. However, what we are seeing a lot of is people that are in jobs that require creative output, writers, designers, coders, etc. They're already using AI to speed up their work. So they're using it to brainstorm. I don't know if you've written an essay or something like this. The worst is
yeah.
looking at that blank sheet of paper, right? And using AI to
Yeah.
create the framework for you and then enhancing it with your own knowledge and research is really helpful. And a lot of the more boring and repetitive tasks can already be automated like relatively reliably. So things like scanning documents or summarizing long articles and stuff. You still need to check the
Mhm.
work, but a lot of it can reduce the workload. I think in everyday life, we're seeing that the tools that we use, like our calendars, our photo apps, are getting more helpful. They're providing more accurate predictions, they're providing more granular data. And actually, in education, it's changing a lot as well. The way that we used to assess how well someone had learned something, which is write an essay, it's suddenly not really a test anymore because you can just get AI to write the essay, right? So they're looking at the way that we assess students and learning. The way that I see it, like AI now is Google 10 years ago. So if you're not using AI
Mhm.
to help you in your job, it'd be like not using Google search to answer questions 10 years ago. So it's like a similar thing. It's something that you need to be aware of and learn about, but it's not going to replace most people's jobs in the next few years.
Yeah. I think there's been multiple situations where it's given completely made up answers or it hasn't actually been accurate enough to really depend on. So you get there's only so much you can do. So look, the whenever we finish these podcasts, we always like to leave with a question for people to be able to bring up to get a conversation going. What's the question that we want to leave some people with?
I think if you're talking to someone that's really deep in the topic of AI, a great question to ask is their thoughts around the open versus closed AI development movement. So there's kind of two trains of thought, right? Companies like OpenAI, like ChatGPT, ironically, despite their name, they have a closed development. So they don't release their model, like the weights and the criteria that build their model. Whereas companies like Meta released their Llama 3 model completely openly. So people can use that and develop based on that and build based on that.
Mm.
But it raises some interesting questions around innovation and should people share this? Should they have the ability to monetize things? These are all kind of hot topics in the world of AI, and there's a big debate within the AI community. So that's something that you can absolutely get a conversation started with.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And having done a lot of work in the open source world, it's a fierce debate, right? You've got people saying, well, I want to be private, I want to make money. And then I've got people where like open source information and knowledge should be free, right? Interesting
Absolutely.
times. Well, look, that was really interesting, David. I actually learned a lot about AI, which is, you know, surprising given we both work in technology, but there's always information out there that you never find out. So I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have as well. If you do like this, and if there are things that you want us to talk about with AI or anything else, please let us know. We're going to be releasing a series of these over the next couple of months, but stay tuned. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Catch you next time. Bye.